Hello, and welcome to How I Did It, the video series where I sit down with a game I made and I tell you how I did things. As part of this very special edition, we're going to talk about the game that I just finished working on, Meninx. I made it for NaNoRenO in a month. It was technically 92 hours over 15 days. Woo! And we're going to do a little bit of a tour of some of the programming elements. There's three parts, major elements. There's the general programming, which I could just show you in a minute. You can see as I'm flipping through this, it's pretty super easy. There's the choice screen, which is only one major choice screen in the entire game, and then I will show you what I did to make my text boxes move to go from NVL mode to a horizontal pseudo NVL mode, and I'll show you what I mean in just a sec. If you've played the game already, which I hope you have because it's really good and I hope you like it, you might know what I'm talking about already. So, general programming, if you watch the writing video, you'll note that I literally program as I write. I write in the code editor software. This is Notepad++. And that's where I do my, dialogue declarations. I'll do hashtag comments of, okay, this is where I think this sprite is going to show up. Maybe not. I'll decide later. And I will just program as I go. And then I usually have to come back later and do things like novel clears and that kind of good stuff. But this is an NVL mode, which if you don't know how to declare NVL mode in Ren'Py, that is right here in the character description, kind NVL. Just if you didn't know how to do it, that's how you do it. The next major part is this screen. This is the major choice screen in the game, wherein, you can see my shitty Nice background. This is the major choice screen in the game where you pick what the story is going to be based off the ingredients that go in. So you get to pick, okay, I'm going to do pink flower, and I'm going to do mushroom and drink, and it's going to give me my story. How I achieved that is back in the olden days of Ren'Py, you had these condition switches, and it was tricky and it was annoying, but it worked. With the advent of the layered image, it's so much easier. Oh my god. This is the first time I got a chance to actually work with that particular aspect of it. I was like, this is fantastic. I love it. I'm going to drop a link in the description of a really good tutorial on how to do this kind of screen. I found it when I was about halfway through working the screen out. And I was like, oh shit, she had some really good ideas. This was a really great freaking way to do this. Why didn't I do this? And it turns out that we had done some things very similar. I just kind of tweaked. I liked the way she did some things. So I was like, oh, I'm going to do that instead of what I was doing. So I'm going to link that because it's really great. And you're going to see a little bit of that in here. So how do we do the screen? This is a screen. If you're not familiar with Ren'Py, screens are special things. Like that's a screen. Main menu would be a screen. And it's how we call these little special interactable areas. So we start by making a layered image, which, again, back in the old days, you'd have to use a conditional switch for this. The layered image is right here. See, layered image, flower. You'll notice if flower is 1, okay, it's going to use this PNG. If flower is 2, it's going to use this PNG. If flower is 3, it's going to use this PNG. That is just saying that we're going to be changing this variable, this 1, this number right here. We're going to be changing that variable to alter what image we see. That's also how we're going to apply the choice later. Because you use this kind of thing in character creation screens. And so we're using the same principles here. You'll see it down here too. If modulator, I picked a thing, I don't know, it worked. We're going to be changing this 1, this 2, this 3 to get the image that we want. So you'll see 1 is honeycomb, 2 mushroom, 3 herb. That's relatively easy. You had to do it with condition switches. So setting that up is pretty easy. This is a lot harder with condition switches. Layered image, if this is this, give me this. That works really great for if you want to like show someone's like beat up. You can be like, if HP equals 50, show image beat up, and it's great. It's cool. It's wonderful. There's some really good layered image tutorials out there. I'm gonna link them all because they're all amazing. So how do we implement this on the screen? This is the add cut PNG. That's just this image. I just drew it up. No big deal. I did this with a series of X boxes and H boxes. I did this with a series of V boxes and H boxes. If you're not familiar, V box being horizontal box, H box being V box being vertical box, H box being horizontal box. I swear to God, I can talk. So this is the vertical box. This whole thing is one vertical box, and then there's two horizontal boxes within. And then I have another V box here, just to line it up better. This is not the most effective way to do that. I did it anyway, screw it. What this all does is, so this image button right here, this image button left arrow PNG, that's this. It got its hover and its idle state. This image flower is this. This image right arrow, that's this. What I'm doing with the set variable function right here is you make it so that the button will set the variable to one, will increase or decrease the variable, up one or down one. What you have to use is this max function, which will keep it from going outside the bounds of what you have. And there's a whole bunch of stuff there. The better way to do this that I recently learned is using a function, which I don't dislike functions. I know I came from a math programming background, so I know how they function. I know how they work. But I just haven't ever really needed to use them for Ren'Py, so I don't bother. And now I'm like, oh, that actually kind of would have been functional. I'm going to play with it some more, get it to work, because functions are always tricky. But once you get a function to work once, you use it over and over again, it's brilliant. But so that's what's happening here. I'm just telling these buttons to iterate the variable flower, and as the variable flower changes, it changes what image shows up. It seems a little bit much. If you don't have any programming knowledge, it can feel overwhelming, but it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty straightforward when you break it down into the component parts. Neato skeeto. Then all I do from here is once I have the pieces picked. That was it was a slapdash explanation of what I'm using there, because this isn't meant to be a tutorial. Maybe one day. I use my drink button. What drink does, so let's say I'm going to do pink flower and herb. I would then click the drink button. What drink button does is it uses, click the drink button, it goes to jump crossroad. Crossroad is my label, and that label is doop down here. This is a situation where you'd use a jump. Also keep in mind though that calls exist in Ren'Py. And so you may have scenarios where calling is actually better. This one, jump, was better, so I use jump. What I'm doing, and this is nested if statements. Again, I don't even know if this is the best way to do it, but it made the most sense to me when I was constructing it. If I'm using flower 1, which would be determined via these buttons, because this is flower 1, flower 2, flower 3. So if variable flower is 1, and then checks the modulators. Okay, is this 1? Is this 2? Is this 3? Checks flower first, then it checks the modulator, then it jumps to the appropriate section. Checks flower, checks modulator, jumps appropriate section. This gets so much more complicated. Like the more instances you have involved in the process. But it was, the easiest for the situation at hand. So the other thing I wanted to be able to do is, let me see if I can find a good example of it. I think this one should have it. Is I wanted to be able to switch back and forth between this sort of vertical text box and, hear the music, and a more horizontal text box. So here we go. And it still do kind of the same in VL mode text delivery system. So I did this. First of all, this is just NVL mode. It's normal NVL mode. I declare that up here with the characters. When I scroll back up to it, I declare that right here with these characters when we win Wazzle. I also declared a set of characters that were specifically for the more normal looking text box. And name them the same characters, all that kind of good stuff. So what I did, when I got to the section where I wanted to switch between the regular NVL mode and the normal mode, so to speak, I don't know the word for it, ADV mode? I don't freaking know. I did that here. I did not do that here. That's not the right. I want a different part of this section. Hold on, let me find the more appropriate one. Change HUD. Switching the response direction of the stream. Here we go. So here's this. A splashing response to the direction of the stream is the end of this. I do an NVL clear, which clears out these. I switch. I then switch to a character, a blank character called narrator. That makes the text box switch from NVL mode to normal mode, for lack of a better word. The mode you'd be more comfortable with. Not comfortable, familiar with. I wanted to be able to, and that lets me kind of do this. I still, however, wanted to be able to keep this NVL mode style. So what I did, which is dumb, I don't have no idea if this is the best way to do it, but it's what I did. I created new line characters right here with a wait command. So what that means is when it gets to this part of the game, who's found the water near the body, near the water, a body sprawled across the grass. It gets here, so that's this line. I'm pointing at the screen like you can see it. That's this line. Goes here. It bucks and kicks, hands tearing at flesh and in scattered pieces along the ground. New line, wait. Click. So if I click, it goes on to the next section of line, and I technically made it all one dialog box. Because what the W wait does is it basically says, okay, I'm going to wait until the next click entry to continue the text in the dialog box. So I abused the frick out of that to be able to get this sort of NVL mode style of text in a non-NVL mode dialog box. I don't know if this was stupid or not. It was either so genius that I am incredible and everyone should bow down to me, or it's the dumbest thing in existence and no one should ever pay attention to anything I do ever. You can decide. You can decide what's more appropriate for you. But that's how I addressed that, was two different dialog boxes. I do multiple dialog boxes all the time. I kind of want to go back to one of my old games and do how I did it for Heart Connection, where I just went bonkers with dialog boxes, and where I'm also doing it for Demon. The D stands for Demon. But that's how I handle it in this. I just go back and forth between the two. We're back in NVL mode, NVL clear, all that kind of good stuff. And that's how I made that work. I like it. I think it came out cool. I don't know that I would ever do it again because it was such a pain in the ass. But it looks really cool. So I don't know, man. And then you'll see here, this is just a side, I have a persistent chalice true here. What I wanted to do is, because the game starts with an intro, like, oh, they came to shore, or something. I wanted to set it up where you could skip all that and skip right to the choice screen. So that's all that is. It's persistent chalice true. All it does is once you finish one route, it registers that, oh, that variable's true. And so at the beginning of the game, let's say you quit the game and you go to the main menu, blah, 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 start. If you finish the game already, you get this option. You can skip the intro, or you can continue and read the intro again. And if you continue, you have to go through the sun-bleached shore, blah, 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 blah. If you skip it, takes you straight to the drink screen. That's all that is. That's a pretty simple thing. I like doing it. You can skip for galleries and stuff. That is that on the programming for this game. It was not particularly complicated, mostly UI bullshit. I did spend an extremely long amount of time figuring out how I could make this title screen happen before I just went ahead and animated it in Photoshop and then threw it in as a webm. I was like, screw it. I can't figure out how to in-engine animate this the way I want it. Screw it. Out of engine. Pre-render. It's fine. But that's it. If there's something you see interesting in here that you want more details on, I know this is a very, very slapdash, very thrown together, very like, this is what I did. Can you pay attention? I can do something in the future that is a little more detailed on how I implemented it into a specific game. Or if there's something cool I did that you want more information on, I can direct you to a tutorial on it. That being said, though, that is the end of the programming portion of how I did it. That's probably going to be the end of the videos for this. There's not a lot more, fancy stuff that kind of went into the game. There's UI and things, but thank you for coming along and having this adventure with me. I really appreciate it. See you soon.